Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey, and today I'm very, very excited to talk about Star Wars Outlaws. I'm about 10 hours into the game and I'm really loving it so far, and I wanted to take a second and share some of my early thoughts on the game as I've been going through it. I wanted to start out by talking about my perspective, though, and that's that I generally love single-player story games, and I really enjoy open-world games, especially some of my favorites being Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West and Ghost of Tsushima, and, many more. So this game is, a type of game that I would like to play already, and then just putting a Star Wars spin on it makes me even more excited. But going in, I was excited, but not over like the moon like I was for things like Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor. I tend to enjoy more Jedi-oriented stories. And the outlaw theme here didn't really immediately jump out to me, but I was still excited about the concept of a true open world Star Wars game. I really love the open world elements on Kobo and Jedi Survivor, but I'm kind of excited for this experience going in where the open world is kind of the focus and really put center stage and is kind of the point of the whole game here. So that's kind of my perspective going in on what I thought about the game itself. I went into it knowing very little about the game, but I was most interested in just being in that open world and then the reputation system, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The thing that I was pretty apprehensive about, though, with this game was that it was being made by Ubisoft, and they certainly have had great games in the past, even in recent years. I love the original Assassin's Creed games. I really loved Watch Dogs 1 and 2, but I've also really struggled with some of their more recent releases like Watch Dogs Legion or Assassin's Creed, particularly Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Mirage. These are some of the only games that I've ever just straight up stopped playing without at least completing the main story. And to me, sometimes these games feel bloated, don't really have engaging gameplay or combat, and sometimes I struggle to connect with the characters in these settings. But despite these concerns, I really went into Outlaws with an open mind, and I really have so far found myself getting more and more excited about the game, whether it was before release or as I've continued to play it. I just have, kind of really grown to appreciate what this game is. So the format of this episode here is that I'm going to share my top 5 first impressions from Star Wars Outlaws, or the 5 things that are sticking with me the most about the game. And of course, this is going to be spoiler free. I'm not really going to discuss the story here at all because I myself haven't got very far into it. So starting with number 5, I want to talk about how this game unites the Star Wars saga. I love all the areas of Star Wars, some more than others, but I love all of Star Wars. And one of my favorite things is when current media ties in all different eras of Star Wars together. For example, I'm a massive fan of the sequel trilogy, so getting to experience sequel planets like Kanto or Kijimi during the time of the original trilogy, it really is exciting to me because it unites everything into one package in a very rewarding way. It's often easy to overlook the fact that all these planets are all in the Star Wars galaxy at the same time, and they all have a place regardless of their era. For me, whenever things like this happen, whether it's a Lego Star Wars game, the Lego shorts, or now Outlaws, or even, something like The Acolyte potentially, my hope is that experiencing this and having all the eras brought together, people who weren't as fond of the sequels or certain planets or aspects from other things will realize that there's stuff to appreciate even in maybe movies or shows that weren't their favorites. With number 4, I want to talk about Nyx and Kay. But I really, really want to start by talking about Nyx. I absolutely love Nyx. This is the little creature that, you see on all the posters and the cover of the game and everything, and you've probably seen cute clips of on the internet. But I absolutely love Nyx. I myself have a small dog, and Nyx reminds me so much of him. Just like the way that Nyx interacts with everything around him is just so amazing. I wanted to start with the cute aspects of the character because I'm a sucker for a cute little alien in Star Wars. But with the cute, I love the way that Kay and Nyx have such a strong bond, and that you can tell that Kay definitely treats Nyx like a spoiled family member. They eat together, she dresses him up, and there's a lot of playful interactions between the two, which is really endearing and helps you grow closer to the characters and really develop up, an attachment to them. Functionally, though, Nyx serves as a really important companion for a lot of different things as you continue to play the game. From opening doors and stealing items from enemies to distracting and attacking them, Nyx is a fantastic gameplay element, and it's pretty unique to Outlaws. In Jedi Survivor Fallen Order, BD-1 is kind of your companion, and he can do some things, but Nyx really has a lot of freedom to do very important things, and you are the one that's directing them, which is really cool. As for Kay, I do really enjoy her character so far, but I need to spend more time with her to build more of a relationship. You know, I can definitely see her path to becoming one of my favorite Star Wars characters, especially, you know, in video games, you spend so much time with the characters, you control them, and you kind of have a piece of yourself identified with them. But so I need to spend more time with her to see how far she really elevates. But video game characters are obviously super important, and I absolutely love Cal Kestis. So I think there's definitely room for Kay to become, you know, right up there with him in terms of iconic video game characters. Number 3 thing I want to talk about here is the reputation system. I'm still early on in the game, like I mentioned, and I haven't really got to fully engage with the system and earn strong reputations and get those better rewards that come with that. But even at this point, I can say that the reputation system is one of the most unique aspects of this game. And I love that there are options to build favor for your favorite syndicates, independent of the other ones. But then there's also, particularly through the main story, aspects where the underworld is really intertwined, and you often have to choose to betray one syndicate in order to please another, and that affects your relationship with both. This not only creates an interesting story, but it also allows you to connect further with Kay and Nyx because you start to shape their story with your decisions. I think this is a super unique aspect of the game, and I'm really, really excited to continue on with it and experience it. The number 2 thing I want to talk about, the number 2 thing that impressed me the most in this game is world design. I absolutely love the way that this game structures its planets. And so depending on your location and the particular maps that you're in, you can feel like you're exploring a really, really detailed interior environment of a more linear game. But also you can go within the same world to experience a vast valley or, you know, outdoor area of a true open world game. And I think this experience is a big strength of Outlaws, is open world games don't tend to have really detailed or immersive city areas. And there are obviously some exceptions to that, of course. But the attention to detail in the more confined areas and the attention to detail in the larger, vast areas really makes this game feel special. I really also love that there are 2 means of traversal in this game. Starting out, we have the Trailblazer, and we have, you know, somewhat seamless ground to air and air to ground travel in the Trailblazer, which is a really cool ship. As well as, you know, you land in that ship and then you jet off to wherever you're going in your speeder. And the feeling of both is absolutely amazing. I'm not as keen on space combat, like Star Wars Squadrons wasn't necessarily for me, but the feeling of that speeder in the controller, I'm playing on PS5 in the DualSense, it feels like you're actually like kicking it up on a speeder, which is really cool. And that takes us to my favorite thing about Star Wars Outlaws so far, and that is the exploration aspect to it. A common problem that I tend to have with open world games, especially those from Ubisoft, like I mentioned, is that fulfilling quests and completing tasks outside of the main story often feel like a massive chore. And this is not at all the case for me in Outlaws. I feel like every corner I round, there's going to be something really interesting and engaging for me to interact with. From finding secret sabacc rooms, to listening to nearby characters, to pick up on a new challenge, to sneaking around and finding new outfits that even modify your abilities. I'm always excited to explore every inch of the map that's coming up. Just a quick example. I was driving my speeder past this small cantina in the open world area on a new planet for this game called Tashara. And I, got off the speeder, walked in to see if there were any collectibles or anything I could find. But rather, I was leaning up against the bar here, and I was listening to a conversation where I overheard 2 characters talking about how there was some stolen items put behind a waterfall. And I got the choice to go and pursue that, see if I could find the items in the waterfall. And things like this is just one example of the many things in this game that are like this. It really makes me feel like I'm an outlaw in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's an absolute enormous strength of the game. I didn't want to say to bring this into an actual real world experience. If you've gotten the chance to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you know how immersive and what a sense of wonder you have as you wandering around the park, wondering what you're going to experience next. And you're getting continuously and even more so immersed in the Star Wars galaxy as you spend more time there. Playing Star Wars Outlaws and exploring, particularly in the city areas here, give me that very same feeling. And that is really important to me. You get to feel like you are really exploring these planets. And having Kay as a vessel of being someone who is experiencing this stuff for the first time along with you really adds to the magic of experiencing all this stuff for the first time. And those are my top 5 things from Star Wars Outlaws so far. I'm really, really excited to continue playing it, and I'll obviously update you with additional thoughts on more of the gameplay and the story as I continue. My co-host Dan is intending on playing the game, so maybe after he finishes the story, we can release a discussion on what we thought about it. For me personally, I'm up next really excited about experiencing Kijimi. I'm a big fan of The Rise of Skywalker, so I'm elated for that. I thought it was such a fun choice for an inclusion in this game. I do want to say, if you're on the fence about buying Star Wars Outlaws, I would definitely recommend it, given that you meet a few different criteria. First is that you absolutely love Star Wars. So this one kind of ticks the box immediately. If you love Star Wars, you're a big fan, you want to freely spend time in the galaxy without being, whisked away to different things, this game is 100% for you. You can definitely enjoy it if you're a moderate to not even a Star Wars fan at all, but this is like, you really should buy it if you're a big Star Wars fan. Second is that if you like open world and even single player story games, I think you'll really be happy with what is offered here. It definitely is strengthened by being a Star Wars fan, but it's really fun the way that the game progression works. Like, for example, you don't have a skill tree, but you have contacts that you can do things for that help you build new skills. So, like, the gameplay is very satisfying outside of it just being a Star Wars game. But finally, the thing here that I think is that if you go into this having an open mind and knowing what you're getting yourself into, for example, like watching some other reviews and videos and stuff, knowing what you are going to experience might make you more inclined to want to get this game, because it's generally being received well. It's really good. And if you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, I think you'll definitely really enjoy it. If you do decide to go with the game, I do have one recommendation, and that is take your time. I don't often do this in open world games. I kind of feel the pressure to just continue going, doing the main story, and stuff gets left in the dust. But I'm doing that here for once, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So I can't recommend that enough. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on Outlaws, my top 5 favorite things from it so far. But with that, I really loved it. I'd love to hear what you think of Star Wars Outlaws, so please feel free to let us know what you think. And with that, thank you so much for listening. If you consider giving us a like or subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice or on YouTube, that would be really appreciated. We're still a relatively new podcast, and we're hoping to, get our stuff out there more. And if you're willing, please consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod, or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And with that, thank you so much again for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.